Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, everybody, for attending Kula's July AMA. Still struggling to believe that it's July. This has really snuck up on us, but we're here, and we are still working hard, building this project, progressing this project even prior to launch. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But again, we every once in a while we like to just stop and remind everybody what is Kula. And Kula is an impact investment vehicle that we are building on the blockchain. We're using this to really entice investors to invest into real world assets all around the world. A lot of times in developing areas of the world, which struggle to gain investment. But when we bring in the blockchain, we also bring in transparency. We bring in a way to minimize corruption, decrease the risk in investment, because now investors see transparently what they're getting into. But then the blockchain also offers the benefit of really benefiting a community. And as we invest into each natural resource or real world asset, there's some identifiable community that we choose, and that community benefits from our investment through profit sharing and through governance. Governance is the big aspect of what we're bringing, because we're doing this inside of a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, which is really just operated and run by the community. Now, the community is much more powerful at the asset level, but we have community participation up at the governance level as well. And this is something we've been building now for 3.5 years. And we are sure that we are really ahead of the curve on other projects that are doing what we're doing. We're taking steps to ensure that we are head and shoulders above any competition that might come up. But at the heart of hearts, we are an impact investment vehicle that really just wants to do good all around the world. And you'll see as we kind of talk about this, what assets we have on board, and fun announcements of future assets that we have just onboarded or will be onboarding. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sam to talk a little bit about his side of things.
Great, thank you, Mike. So when Kula started, we tokenized governance, and it's been a while. I'm really excited to report that we are finally tokenizing asset. And it's a very difficult process, because the asset that we deal with is unlike the real asset that's in the normal industry definition, treasury or bond or real estate. We are tokenized an underground asset. There are benefits to that, in that, for example, the early investors' upside, which many times could be 3x to 10x, could be maintained and kept. Two is we can reduce the investment horizon by about 2 years if we can have the early investors to sell the tokenized asset to the later investors, and therefore realize liquidity. So we're really happy to announce that the first underground water asset tokenization is underway. And we found a way to do that. And it's going to be announced over all of our channels very soon about the details. But once again, we are trailblazing in this industry, which leads me to someone was asking, like, if I can summarize, Kula DAO in 3 words, what can they be? And I'm thinking it would be legitimate, trailblazing, and restorative, right? So legitimate in that we are a serious use case of blockchain among all the pump and dumps and the scams that we've seen. We are legitimate in having government relationships, and we're real, not just in real asset sense, but also in the impact that we have on the community. Trailblazing, we're pushing the boundary of regulatory environment, regulation, KYC, AML, along with usage of technology. and we're restorative in that we're giving back to people what was rightfully theirs in the governance side of things. So little plug over here, but very excited that we're embarking on this journey with all of you. Chris, to you.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, so my update this month is really around the regulatory process, and in some ways, there's not much more to share. We've been waiting for their deliberation and review of our first application, which went in a couple of months ago now. And there is movement. They are in communication with our legal team, and things are progressing. It's just at a slower pace because, from what we understand, the regulator is inundated with applications and various different things to follow up on, which has had some impact on just their provision and their service agreement levels. But we are hearing that there is movement, which is great. In the last 6 to 8 weeks, we've worked again, constantly been working and have completed the next phase of our application process, which has had some really interesting side effects in the sense of just making the product that we provide to the market a lot more robust. So we have a full end-to-end anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism protocol process that wraps around Kula. So it's from my perspective, as a piece of software and smart contract backed application for the tokenization of governance that Sam was just talking about. We built that throughout the last 12 months and had that fully audited, and we think on the market a pretty strong application compared to competitors that we do have. Having completed this next phase of what we've just built around and what we've wrapped around that with essentially making it a regulatory standard and globally compliant product on the financial markets means that it really stands out as one of its kind. So really another step in an innovative direction, like Sam was saying, in terms of what we're able to provide to the market. So it's been a really good process to go through. So whilst we're waiting on the regulators' deliberations and them signing us off to move forward, we've actually also been really busy at building an entire corporate governance and compliance and risk framework ready for when we do launch, that we can stay compliant and continue to keep growing. So that's the update. Please feel free to ask more questions when we get to the questions part of this AMA. But for now, that's where things are. That's where things rest on the regulatory side, and that means I can pass now to you, Sat, to give us an update on the marketing journey.
Thank you, Chris. So from a marketing perspective, it's been brilliant. It's been really exciting. So obviously we just passed halfway into the year. So just looking at the date, 2nd of July. So statistically speaking, since the beginning of the year, we've grown across all of our social media platforms. I think from the top of my head, the recent number being around 67,000. In terms of percentage, from the beginning of the year, that's around 400% growth, which is brilliant and indicative to kind of the place that we're at and some of the brilliant content and material that's been coming out. So just to speak to our recent video, for example, received over 4 million impressions. But what really excites me and some of the internal team is some of the things that the community, I guess, don't see and don't get to hear. So, for example, that ranges from the number of people viewing and monitoring, for example, our AMA, i.e. today, the increase in the amount of individuals subscribing to our email campaigns, for example. So they're going to be the first to know whether when we go live or go to, for example, IEO, or even in the kind of uptick in impressions and email reading and following. So I guess from my perspective, we're all beginning to peak on lots of different fronts at the perfect time. So it's really exciting. Just to kind of go through some of the kind of things that have occurred in months. So Sam was in Hong Kong, took the stage at Web3 100, speaking to tokenization and our unique company structure and how that can really help the people on the ground. Taryn spoke at Mansion House at the Digital Commonwealth in central London. From memory, I think he shared a panel to discuss how kind of real world assets not only have the ability to almost disrupt crypto, but also existing traditional markets, services, structures. And obviously the huge updates that came out of Nepal, which I'm guessing you would have seen some of the brilliant material, and I have to plug our professional, awesome in-house video editing team because they turned that around very, very quickly. I don't want to focus on that news too much because I don't want to take away the thunder from Micah because I know he's up next. So he's up next, and I know he'll speak to that in a lot more detail. But just to kind of talk a little bit about strategy and about some of the excitement kind of that we can expect in the coming weeks and months. So obviously with Nepal, we're able to leverage some of the awesome kind of progress that Kula have been making, and we'll put that in front of the community. And I think some of the material itself will speak for itself. We don't need to do a lot of the selling. We don't need to do a lot of the talking, because some of the inroads and advancement that's Kula's making within the space truly is trailblazing, really is at the pinnacle of real progressive change. LinkedIn subscriptions to our newsletters, that's been increasing. I think we're at 60% growth, which again speaks to the interest from senior professionals, not just individuals within, let's say, just a crypto niche. Our TikTok growth has been exponential. Again, a testament to the great video content that's being produced. If I was to hone in on, for example, the likes of X and Telegram, where we've seen some real strong growth, we've had numerous strategies deployed across a number of our social media platforms that have converged, resulting in the kind of returns that we get to see. Certain initiatives have been accelerated, certain initiatives, it's a very adaptive kind of space. So there's been numerous things that have been happening in the background. And that ranges from specific crypto targeted marketing initiatives, which are a combination of on and off platform, supplemented by brand awareness campaigns, tailored video and educational material, constant community updates and engagement techniques, use of influencers, a lot of, honestly, a lot of different things that have come together and converged at the right time. Now, I have to again take a moment to plug our ambassador and admin team. You may have seen the awesome Avenger-like image that came out of the Philippines. Honestly, I wasn't expecting it. It wasn't something that was planned, but that was absolutely awesome. But again, what that also speaks to from my perspective is the transparency behind the team. There's not many, for example, companies that will, not to compare, but it's just awesome to see, for example, how we can put our admin team out. We can put kind of the people that sit behind the entire structure, whether they're out in the Philippines, whether it's in Hong Kong, whether it's in the US, and we can really just be very transparent about who we are and what we're trying to achieve here. And I guess just to kind of quickly mention Telegram, because and a huge welcome to some of the ambassador team that have been working really hard. We've witnessed a month-on-month build out of that entire ambassador program. There's a lot of vibrancy, a lot of activity coming into fruition at the right time. We've got obviously the competitions, the ads, the optimization of certain things, but it's just the term which I think Chris mentioned in previous months AMA about the Kula DNs, a term which the community have given themselves, and it's just brilliant. Everyone's making it their own. So a lot of exciting things that have come out from the marketing space, and honestly, it's I guess from our perspective, just peaking at the right time.
Excellent. Yes, thank you, Sat. Great update from our one of our marketing directors. So I appreciate that, Sat. Yeah, as you many have seen our announcement on X. If you haven't seen it, go check our X page. And the latest announcement was a contract that I was able to sign during this last trip to Nepal. It's a contract with a local investment company, Big Land Hydro, that own 2 licenses for hydroelectric generators. One is for 92 megawatt, and the other is for 125 megawatt hydroelectric generator. Now this is my 3rd trip to Nepal in the time span of about 9 weeks, and I've been there really forging relationships, building trust, and a lot of conversations, just educating what is blockchain, how it can be implemented, the benefits of it, et cetera, et cetera. And as I do that at all different levels of the government, it's quite amazing how open they are to not just blockchain implementation, but how Kula brings it and what we have to offer as a company. It's really fun to watch from the beginning of the conversation when you say blockchain, and they get worried because they're going to get scammed immediately is what they start thinking. But by the end of the conversation, how they're just wide open to what Kula brings. It's just really been an awesome experience building these relationships and watching them really come to fruition over a matter of weeks, where we're signing a contract, we're going to be doing business together, and asked to help fund and build these 2 hydroelectric generators. So just for a little bit of context, a little bit of explanation here, 1 megawatt can power roughly 1,000 average homes around the world. Now, these are in developed nations. When you start talking underdeveloped nations, the amount of homes that 1 megawatt of power can supply is incredible. So the fact that we've got one 92 megawatt hydroelectric license and one 125 megawatt license really gives us opportunities in abundance. Not only can we power homes around this region, but now we can also pursue other other monetization opportunities through data centers. I won't go too deep because a little bit of that, we're going to hold on to that until we have more contracts signed. But the opportunity to invest in and to build these hydroelectric generators is a done deal. We have exclusive rights with this Big Land Hydro company, and they're already pursuing more licenses for us to help invest in. Nepal is ripe for hydroelectric generation. And on the back end of that also comes carbon credits. And like I said before, there's other opportunities that we can do with our own hydroelectric generators. So very exciting times. But then on top of that, we're also in discussions, again, at the prime minister level, the parliamentary level, even the central bank level, with more opportunities that Kula DAO can participate in. Now, even I'm not sure how widely read you are all on world news, but I've honestly been on the phone with Nepal for the last, roughly 8 hours because there's a big change coming in the government. There's an opportunity for the prime minister seat to change hands, which then in turn would change a lot of the minister seats. Now you say, Micah, what about all the work you've done, relationships you've built, conversations you've had? Well, that's okay. And because we know it is a developing nation, we've known from day one that this change of power, change of seats in the government happens quite frequently. And so each time I've gone, I work very hard to pursue relationships with both sides of the aisle, the proverbial aisle. So no matter what party is in power, we have deep relationships with both sides. And so it doesn't matter who's in the prime minister seat, who's directing the central bank. We've already got established connections with both sides of the aisle. So it's very exciting for us. We're working to not just invest into Nepal, but also create longevity for Kula DAO inside this nation, so that if somebody new comes into power, we're already benefiting the country at such a rate that there's no way that anybody would want to get rid of us or rip up a contract. That's our heart, is to do so much good in that nation that they're just going to keep us around for a long time. So it's been a really, really fun time for me personally, getting to know these people. I've fallen in love with the country, fallen in love with its people, but to see the opportunities, really, it's a blank canvas for us. And the opportunities are endless inside this country. So very excited to announce one of many contracts to be. So if you didn't see it on X, please go check it out, share it, and follow us. Just help us spread that word. We're going to go ahead and open it up to questions and comments. Please, as we grow on these AMAs, please bear with us. We might not be able to get to all of the questions as they come in, but go ahead and type your questions into the Q&A space. I see we've got one available. Let's see. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to meet you again. What steps are taken to ensure continuous improvement of the platform? And who is the target audience for Kula? It's a great question. Let's see. Any other founders want to take that one, or I'll take it? No problem.
Go for it.
Yeah. Well, so continuous improvement will will always be kind of part of maintenance of this platform. We've got a great in-house development team. We also have an external team that we contract as well to assist us in this process. So as far as the technical side of continuous improvements go, we're going to just naturally have to do that every time we bring on a regional DAO. There's little tweaks to our smart contracts that have to happen based on who the community is or what the asset is. Those minor tweaks are always going to keep us up to date, maintained, and adaptable. Really, that's going to be the word of the day for what Kula is as we onboard all of these different assets. Now, who's the target audience? That's the interesting question, because we started this project with a really strong focus on sub-Saharan Africa, and the opportunities there are endless. We were looking specifically at real world mining into gold, into limestone, like we've already got on board. And as we built this platform, we start to realize that the scope of our project can be copied and pasted in different industries. Well, like hydropower, like agriculture, like water resources. Anything with intrinsic value, inherent value, then we can tokenize that and we can add that to our treasury. So target audience now has really moved from sub-Saharan Africa to, boy, really it comes down to any place we've got relationships for right now. We are really utilizing connections and deep relationships that we already have prior to launch. Now, once launch occurs, then people will be approaching us through our website. And we've actually already had this happen, where a regional DAO opportunity has approached us through our website, asking for investment, asking for partnership. But the target audience really is communities. That's who we want to help the most, right? Yes. Do we want to invest and build our treasury up? Absolutely. But it's our target audience really boils down to who are the people that are negatively affected by these assets? Who are the people that have big rock trucks driving through their village during the day, or drinking poisonous water from real world mining? Those are our target audience. If we're going to be very clear, that's who we want to help the most. That's who we want to be a part of this project more than anybody else. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Micah. I'll jump in and take the second one here. So yeah, thank you for the question. Here, there's a comment being made about wanting to know a little bit about Nepal and what would happen if the government changed, which Micah already addressed. But the second question asked, and again, it's kind of the $64,000 question that we're asked several times a day from everybody, is what are the plans now on the ICO? I've been waiting since Q2, and yeah, we agree with the question. You know, we've been waiting to, and we've been quite clear and have shared across the community that was our expected point for launching the primary token and kickstarting the project. And obviously here we are, 2nd of July into Q3 now, and we actually haven't had the ICO. And just want to refer back to the statement earlier. We're wanting to make sure that we're doing this completely in a legal and transparent and regulated fashion. We don't want to jump ahead of where we should, or what's actually allowed with the jurisdiction that we've chosen to launch within. And so we're really at the mercy, and I think of the regulatory process. And earlier this week, we were talking together, and just really celebrating the fact that there's really not much to build. It's built. We have the ability tomorrow to press a button and go, honestly. And yeah, there's a few things to put in place, but they're all lined up and ready to kind of, that chain of events is within our control and very much on our terms, and we can do that. But at this point, we want to make sure we don't jump until the regulator has said you are free to move ahead. And so we're waiting, and again, we are getting feedback that things are in process and movements. There's not complete radio silence. But as soon as we know, the community will know, and we'll be able to have that date and really start working towards it, so we can, not just get a regulatory nod and then the next day press the button, but make sure that between the regulatory nod and the community knowing and building anticipation for that date, it's really not far away, and we're really very excited and getting prepared for that. But we want to do this correctly and well, because we want to be here in 10, 15, 20, 50 years time, and keeping to grow the protocol and evolving it and developing it along the way. There are no more open questions. If you would like to post some questions, please go ahead and do so. There's always a flurry when we ask people to actually post. So I think if there's any questions coming, I'll just refer back a little bit to what Michael was sharing too, in terms of just the development of Kula DAO. Is actually one of the things that I really both love and sometimes find a little bit hard about our team, is that when we get into a room, we quickly come up with new ideas of what's next. And I think we've lost count of phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 will look like this, in terms of where we want to go and what we want to keep building, both on the technology and the tech stack side, right through to the actual deliverables in terms of products for clients. And if there's one thing for sure, there will be a continual and ongoing level of investment into the building out the protocol, because the reality is where we're at today, in 2 years it will be obsolete, and then what we develop next year and will also be quickly obsolete. We need to keep on that cutting edge to stay innovative and trailblazing, like Sam pointed out earlier. So I just wanted to share that as well with what Micah said, and just encourage you guys, if you have any other questions, please post them as we jump into this next one here.
Now let's see, what does Kula DAO expect in a year, and can Kula community building reach Nigeria? Great question. And I'll answer that by, we've actually already been invited to Nigeria. We have a couple relationships that are very well, deeply connected in Nigeria. The timing wasn't right at the time, just because we haven't launched yet. When we go, of course, that country is looking for quite a large capital investment. And prior to launch, the investment comes from the founders' pockets and the handful of angel investors that we have on board right now. And so the ability to invest into these projects really is limited at this point until we go to launch. Once we launch, and then we have the world is buying the tokens, now we're going to have a much larger liquidity pool from which to invest. So Nigeria is on the docket. It's just the timing is not right just yet. So what do we expect in a year? Boy, without any crazy speculation, we expect to be launched. We expect to scale our staff and our contractors. We expect to have really a broad set of relationships all over the world. I would love to see Kula on every continent. That's just me personally. I know all the founders probably have different dreams of where we're going to be at in a year. But yeah, definitely we're going to be launched. I think we're going to be thriving and probably rolling faster than I even expected. I never thought I'd be even this busy prior to launch, but I can't imagine how busy we're going to be a year from now. Okay, Sam, this one might look up your alley a little bit, if you want to take this next one.
Sure. How the investment, so the question is about practical process, how investment will work from flow of capital to projects and back to the community. So there are many layers to this question, which I appreciate. But really quickly, in terms of the flow of money, there's, Kula works with the local development company. So for hydroelectric power, the company that Micah mentioned is Big Land Hydro is the partner company. For other projects, like our first regional DAO, right? It was Beka Zulu. That's a local mining company. So we have a profit sharing model with them, and 20% of our original DAO token goes to the community. And then when I say goes to the community, that means the community members actually hold the token in their wallet, and they have an app that's developed by Kula DAO that they can propose and vote on proposals that have, that can make decisions of, for example, how, when, how much to mine their natural resources. Another component of this is there must be a linkage between the decision of the DAO and what's actually being executed in the real world. And we do so by establishing an SPV, the special purpose vehicle. So the people who are sitting on the board of the SPV are the same people that are sitting on the regional DAO, decision-making committee. So we align the interest there to make sure the decision of the DAO is reflected in the real world. In terms of the due diligence process, right now we have an internal team that does the due diligence, which has, for example, mining expert who can look at the mining report from different regions. We have people who come from investment banking industry to help us look at the forecast. We have people on the ground that can help us to actually look at whether or not, the proposed project exists. We have also the natural resource detection technology that somewhat give us like an unfair advantage so that we know how much the resource is before we go and purchase the mining or the water right with the local development company. And the fact that we're seeking regulation will mandate that type of transparency and the robust due diligence process that we carry out. In the future, though, we're hoping, with a name with a DAO, in our name, that type of process, we can decentralize it a little bit more. Having a broad reach all over the globe is, in a sense, not sustainable from a centralized entity. So we're hoping to decentralize that. We have a project in Malaysia, for example. The folks over there are super nice. They invite us over to do due diligence on a lumber project, right? So we're hoping obviously this time we'll go there ourselves, but later on in maybe a year or so, we'll have a local team over there be part of the DAO to help us do the due diligence process. Let's see. When someone buys token using their debit card, say they bought £1,000 worth of token, what happens with the flow of funds? So first of all, the pounds would need to be on-ramped to stablecoin like USDT. So our token should be listed on centralized exchanges. So once the KYC is done on centralized exchange, that person can then on-ramp the fiat into a stablecoin. Then the centralized exchange will have a pair of Kula token and the whatever stablecoin of our choice. So say it's USDT. Then the purchase is made. Then the investor will hold the Kula token, and Kula DAO's wallet will hold the USDT. Then what happens to the flow of funds from that point? Now, then it depends on how many projects under Kula DAO umbrella are seeking funds and how Kula DAO decides to invest in those things. For simplicity's sake, say there's only one project that's seeking fund, and the fund is exactly £1,000. Then there will be a pre-negotiated amount of, like, say, if Kula invests £1,000 in this project, what percentage of equity basically that we receive as Kula DAO. So then the 1,000 pound worth of USDT will be transferred to the local regional project. In this case, it would have been already be a regional DAO that's been established. So the 1,000 pound worth of, say, USDT will be sitting in the regional DAO's treasury, their wallet. And of course, the regional project will have to off-ramp that to another fiat when they purchase their equipment and whatnot to make the sale. So the off-ramp will happen there. So that's the kind of the flow of the money. And then once the regional DAO makes the money, then the profit is being shared back to Kula DAO, and once again on-ramped and placed into our DAO's treasury. There is one other way the Kula token can increase in value is by collecting the tokenized asset, right? So like I previously mentioned, like if the project is about water, we can put the tokenized underground water, that particular token, into Kula DAO treasury because we have negotiated a percentage of our ownership on the regional project. Okay, it's a long question. I don't know what percentage of this. Let's see. So talk about this partner thing. Oh yeah, monitoring. Yes. So we have policy written, which Chris can expand upon if he wishes, about monitoring. And again, under regulation, we're required to monitor all of our regional projects. And right now, it's an internal team that signs off on the business plan and investment processes. And there will be tricks that we deploy to kind of rank these projects. And to, so many times a project doesn't just ask for the investment just one time. It could be multiple times. Then we could, employ some of these strategies from investment funds, hedge funds to allocate money. So we can go into that detail about a little bit later. What are practical points regarding how blockchain is used to de-risk the investment into hydro plants? So not just hydro plants, I will say, a lot of these things, the projects with real asset, especially underground asset, happen in developing nations, which, these investment processes can be opaque. So blockchain is used to bring transparency and immutability just by default, just by the way how technology works. And having a regulatory kind of a body on top of what we do, it really mandates that type of transparency. Not to mention, KYC and ML processes that's happening there. Blockchain enables the tracking of fund flows between different wallets. And we have a way to make sure like we understand the holder of the wallet, for example, through KYC process and where the money goes. And Chris can speak very passionately about the impact side of things. Many times, a huge amount of money from, like UN or some huge government entity goes into a project trying to make impact, but only very little gets to the hands of the community. But through blockchain, we can really mandate that to happen. And in terms of the project successful ones versus failed ones, how is the scripting managed? Can investors select the project themselves? One is if you look at a VC structure, it's a 2-6-2. So they're hoping 2 will make it big, 2 will fail, and 6 will be, at least keep the original investment value. And that will probably be our strategy of deployment of capital will somewhat look similar to that. Can investors select the project themselves? Right now, if you buy Kula token, investors will not be able to select individual projects. However, that's in our phase 2. We're hoping to kind of like break the investment projects into horizontal vertical ones, maybe by geographic area or maybe by industry, and therefore expose the investment opportunities for our investors even better. That is something where it's under consideration. So yeah, so I think that's pretty much it to this question.
Thanks, Sam.
Sure.
I'm going to jump to a question that's coming from ex Twitter Spaces community that's with us as well today. It's kind of cool. We're concurrently broadcasting out, so welcome to you guys over there on X. It's great to have you guys with us too. One of the questions coming from that community is, can you elaborate on Kula's approach to governance and decision making? How are diverse stakeholder interests being represented and balanced in the ultimate governance model? So it's right there in the name. We're a DAO. We've built a platform that essentially allows token holders that have purchased the Kula token to be able to then be part of the governance and decision making processes of the protocol. Now that operates at the governance level for the Kula token, and we've built in a whole bunch of mechanisms. So if you look at the history of DAOs and how they've been managed in the past, it's not such a great story in some ways, because where projects have set out with real utopian ideals of having that a group democratic kind of voice and consensus, that's actually led to some really terrible outcomes, and where projects have either failed or completely fallen to pieces. So we're leveraging the upside of the technology with the ability for people to participate, to be able to vote, propose, be part of the process in terms of engagement and responding to the things that are posted by the community. But we've also had to build around that for the sake of both regulation and managing investors' finances with prudence and responsibility, fail-safe mechanisms to make sure that decisions don't go in a direction that would subvert the wishes and hopes for people that are putting their money into the protocol. So we've kind of had to balance that tension from a full decentralized to a fully centralized protocol, and kind of balance that tension through the smart contracts and some fail-safe mechanisms where we can leverage the upside of the technology that allows us to do that. That should, from our perspective, both theory and in practice, as we've started to see it, as we've been playing with that and getting it ready for our launch, demonstrates where we can hold to either side of that tension and see things well governed. There's a lot more about that if you want to look at our Medium channels. There's a few papers and articles about DAO governance, and also the white papers there. And again, if you have any more questions on that, it's quite detailed. We've done a lot of thinking and, I would say, graduate level research into the overall history, process, and the design of what we've built at a consensus level. So if you would like to know more, please do reach out and ask us, and we can definitely give you some of those papers.
Great. The next question says, how do you find the natural resources, especially underground water resources? That's another great question. We have partnered with a ground detection company that specializes in finding underground water sources. We've signed with them and utilize them anytime we're looking for water, specifically around mines or new well sites, etc. So that's the company we use. They have proprietary technology that can scan through satellite imagery and find these water sources for us. So that's really the short answer without letting go of too much information. But yeah, we've got a partnership with a company called RTI that does that. Let's see. According to the Kula DAO mission, Kula's mission is to align the interests of differing people groups to create shared value. Yes, using blockchain. How do you intend to do this using ERC20? And how do the interests align? It's not so much the token standard that aligns the interests. It's really the DAO and our governance process that does it. So, for example, we take real-world mining, and this is where we started. The misaligned interests in the real-world mining industry is such that a mining company wants to dig the soil to pull out the valuable rare earths, right? And in turn, there's typically a community or a village that has to deal with the mining. Like I said before, they've got rock trucks driving right through their village because that's the shortest distance, or they're drinking wastewater coming from the mine itself. Maybe they have to relocate their homes altogether. Obvious misaligned interests. One company wants to make profit from what's underneath the ground, And there's another group of people that want to live on that ground. Well, obvious misaligned interests. We align those interests through the DAO and through our governance model. So we invest into this mine. And with our investment comes the requirement that the mining company implement our DAO structure, our governance structure. And this says that profit sharing must go to the people that live, the community. But then also we give them a voice, like Sam was talking about, to vote on different processes around that mine. Maybe they vote that a road needs to be built around their village, right? So and then we also will go in and help develop certain things around their community. In our limestone mine in Zambia, we drilled a freshwater well to them and gave that to the village. So things like this align the interests of both parties, because we're never ever going to stop real world mining. But if we can move the needle and make it just a little bit more positive experience for those who live around these assets, then we're getting closer and closer to aligning those interests. So it's not necessarily the ERC20 token standard that does that. It's really our governance model and the DAO structure that does the aligning of interests. Let's see, how many employees is Kula up to? Oh, we've got a few questions here. How are you funding the growth in Kula prior to the ICO? Can you give a hint as to when the ICO will be? And why is Micah so gray? Oh, man. How many employees are we up to? It's a combination of employees and contractors. And I think we are in the low 40s, if I'm not mistaken, if we include all contractors and employees. These employees and contractors span 15 time zones, all the way from Taiwan to the Mountain Time Zone, I think includes everybody. The funding of this project, we have been blessed enough for probably the first 70% or so of this project. We've been able to fund it ourselves. And then on top of that, we started onboarding angel investors through a Reg D offering and SAFT agreements to come on board and help us with the operational costs and some of the investments that we've been able to accept moving up to the ICO, up to the launch. Now, this investment window is closing quickly, because as soon as we get the green light from our government authority friends, then that investment window will be over, because we'll be soon after going to launch. So when the ICO will happen, when the launch will happen, it really boils down to when our friends at the government levels give us that final green light. We have done everything possible. We've built the thing. We can press play at any time. We just need the final green light. So your guess is as good as ours. However, we see a lot of movement going on behind the scenes. We're in communications, like Chris had said before, and we know the finish line is very, very near. And why am I so gray? Boy, I don't know. The other founders might be able to, but I've been gray since I was 14. So I started finding the gray hairs when I was 14, and ever since then, I just, try my best to wear it well. That's all.
We have one other question here. It's also asking about ICO, which you've just answered, Micah, so I won't repeat you. But question is, on the project side, do you accept all geographies or have a rollout model? And the truth is that we can really operate in any jurisdiction, any locale, and really in any particular asset class as well, because wherever there's real inherent value, what we're trying to do is align those stakeholder interests, right? So we've looked at projects in our earlier days, from the earlier days that we started in real estate, and align the interests around rental processes in North America, just outside of Washington, DC, right down to the projects that we've been talking about today in Nepal, Zambia, Malaysia, and elsewhere. So there's a whole range of different places that we can work and the model can be applied to. And, essentially for us, it comes down to what are those aligned interests? What are the community stakeholders? Where are the community stakeholders enabled to participate and to what degree? And do they get some remuneration out of the asset that they're engaged with or around? So yeah, there's the opportunities are very broad. And again, you can go to our website, look at our website and kind of see there what we've actually got going. And if you want to know more, you can actually just apply and hit the apply button and send information to us about what your project might look like and what investment opportunity you might be interested in yourself.
Good. The last question here, what's the minimum amount to invest? I assume that you are asking about our angel investors. So prior to launch, because it is a Reg D offering, the minimum investment by law is $100,000 US. But once we go to launch, then we're open to retail investment at any scale, any size. So that's no problem there. ERC20 is a really tough chain. Gas fees are high, especially when it goes up. What can Kula do about this? We can't do anything about the gas fees, but we can operate on alternatives. I don't know, Sam, if do we want to get into that at all? I know we haven't announced anything officially, but
well, ERC20 is a standard off of Ethereum, but our code is EVM compatible, so we can be on any kind of EVM compatible chain. So there's a group of them that we're considering. We will be announcing which chain we get on very soon. We need to pick up the conversation because of some regulatory issues and stuff. But once we get that done, we will choose a chain that is cheap enough to operate on. And, we always have our communities on mind, right? Like, of course, I think for token holders, if you think your token is going to be like, increasing exponential whatnot, you probably don't care as much. But our communities also need to be able to transact. And many times the gas fee will be prohibitive on Ethereum for them to do any kind of transaction. So that is definitely one of our top priorities when we consider a chain to operate on.
And last question I think we have here is, like, I understand that you're optimistic about approval through the current government you've applied for regulation. If things don't move forward, is there another regulatory body that is a second choice? Which is honestly, it's a great question, and it isn't one that we haven't not considered and thought about. To this point, we're 3 years into the project and 2 years into, I think now our 7th or 8th, maybe even 9th jurisdiction. I think we counted it up recently as well of how many we'd been through. But we've spoken to lawyers, applied, tried to understand, what is the framework that works here. Found that wasn't able to be moved forward, and then we ended up where we've ended up. And also in the last year and a half, regulation has moved across the world at lightning speed. So what was relevant or irrelevant 6 months ago has now completely changed. So we stay abreast of that, and we've been keeping updated. And the issue of regulation is really, we've also asked a question like, well, is there a way of doing this in a decentralized way where we don't necessarily have to follow the regulatory process? And our current thinking and our approach to that is, well, no, the most appropriate and right thing for us to do, because of the long-term reality of what we're trying to achieve, is to keep really pressing against the regulatory process and find a way through. And we still very much feel like we're in that space at this point. What I'm going to say at this point, and you guys can correct me if wrong, is that we've had the conversations about Plan B and Plan C. We're not sticking all of the eggs in one basket and then sticking a head in the sand hoping that this just works through, and not having contingencies in place. They are in place, but we also also in this context, not necessarily going to discuss what they may be, because at some point that we believe would be moot, and we want to stay really focused on where we're at. But I think the assurance we can give to the community here is that we've thought through the contingencies of what we need to do to make sure that we can keep moving the project forward, and really fundamentally get to a point where we're making the investments into the projects around the planet that we want to see impact and change people's lives, which is what we started this whole thing for in the first place. So again, it's a great question, but I think we've worked really hard to put ourselves in a position where we're in a really strong position. And if that all doesn't work out at the end of the day, which it's always a possibility, we've got plan B and plan C ready to go.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for attending. It's been a joy as always, and we look forward to, we'll continue building behind the scenes. Sam, Chris, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. We'll continue building, and we'll keep everybody that follows us on social media or on our email chain. We'll keep you abreast as to what's going on with us, and I'll let you know as soon as we know, when we get the final green light. So thanks again, and we'll see everybody in August.
And I just want to say welcome again, guys, from Twitter and X Spaces. It's been great to have you today as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. See you next month, everyone.
See ya.